180.
We're recording. We're good to go. Okay, welcome to Yard Talk. Bryn and Maddie here. We're together on Zoom today. We have a guest speaker. This is Kimberlee. Hi, Kim.
Hi.
Kim was actually one of our previous co-workers. We all worked together at the shelter. Kim has since moved on into a new career, and we are going to kind of focus on what she does. So we're going to kind of give Kim the floor a little bit. We're going to ask her some questions. Today, we're going to focus on medical discrimination within the homeless population. And Kim has kids, and we're going to be very patient with Kim's kids.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, thanks, guys. The chaos always ensues here, but we're used to that, right?
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So Kim, just tell us about your position, where you're at right now, what you're doing, and how it still coincides with like addictions and mental health.
So yeah, like Bryn and Maddie said, I was in shelter work for probably 3.5 years, and I loved it. I loved the community sense. I loved the people that I was serving. But then I got word about this new pilot project happening in hospitals. And I just thought, you know what, that's perfect. We're going to try to bridge that gap between healthcare providers and some of the people that we serve that don't seem to get the proper or fair treatment in the medical system. So what the program is called a peer support program. Right now it's a pilot project for about a year, and after that they'll reassess and see if they're going to continue. But so far everyone is super, super happy with it. So I highly doubt it won't continue. To put it in kind of layman's terms and explain it really easy, I'm basically a social worker for people who deal with mental health and have substance use. So I kind of am in there as like an ally for them, and I do a lot of advocacy work and work really closely. So
amazing. Something that I find that we have clients that come to us on a day-to-day basis that reach out to healthcare professionals for a number of different issues, and they tell us these stories about how they were in and out in half an hour, or they sat there for hours and hours and hours and didn't receive any care at all, and then they were just given the boot. Like what are you seeing now that you're in the hospital firsthand?
Well, we started in August, mid-August. So from then to now, I've actually already been seeing good change, which is great. When it first started, you're absolutely right. As soon as it's known that substance use is part of this person's life, then either you're kind of pushed to the side and told, okay, well, you can wait. We're going to deal with more important things. Or yeah, they're like, okay, well, give you this real quick and out you go. And people were being discharged without proper discharge plans, no places to go, not even being given, the biggest thing is the pain management that I'm finding, because if you're a substance user, they're like, well, I don't want to give you anything. But in reality, the substance use is just added on to whatever their situation is. They still have that medical problem, they still have pain, and they still need to be treated for that. So it's been slow. The progress is slow. But having someone like me who has that experience in there, and I'm kind of like that middle ground where I can kind of get in there and say, like, this person needs some help.
Mm-hmm. I just from my own experience, I mean, I feel like everyone might experience it in some way or another, but I had gone to the local hospital here and I was wearing my staff hoodie. And I got questioned on, what I did, where I worked, and I explained it a little bit, and the nurse, an RN, literally said to me word for word, "I don't know how you do it." And I took huge offense to that, because I was like, of course I can do it. I have compassion, and now that this peer program is in the hospital, that's what you guys are there for, is to do it,
Yeah.
So
I hear that on a daily basis. Oh, I couldn't do what you guys do. And wow, it takes a special kind of someone. And when I listen to those statements, I feel exactly like you. It's like, these are people. That's somebody's son, that's somebody's sister. What do you mean I can't believe you can do it? Like, what are we all just going to give up on them and then they're going to have nobody? Like, that's not what we were put on earth to do. So
No.
Interacting with clients now, I always make sure that I'm like, oh, there's a new peer support program. I tell them a little bit about it. I'm like, if you ever need anything, let me know. And there was actually one individual, it was later at night, and I'm like, okay, it's like perfect timing. I think they're off at 11, whatever. So he was on the side of the road. I picked him up. I took him there. I walked in with him and I'm like, you got to make sure we're asking for a peer. So we get in, we do everything, and that's the first thing he asked. He was like, is there any peer on? She was like, oh, just 1 second. And then she sat there and continued to do everything. And he was like, is there a peer here? And she was like, oh, just 1 second, pushing it off and pushing it off. By the time the third time he asked, she was like, okay, I'll go and look. She went and looked. She was like, there's not one on tonight. And he looked at me, he was like, I'm leaving. I'm going. I am not moving forward with this. I'm not sitting here for hours to get neglected and thrown out the door for nothing. And I'm like, okay, like,
yeah, that's what's hard is like right now because it's so new, there's only 4 of us and they don't have any overnight staff in the peer position. I think that's going to be something that's going to be extremely vital, because I've been finding near the end of my shifts, like we're off at 10:30, sometimes 11, because I like to stay and make sure people are helped. But I'm finding we're getting super busy at the end of those shifts. And then all overnight, people are not being properly helped. So I think that might be something that we try to advocate for, is to get overnight staff as well.
I found that like at the shelter, lots of them would want to go late at night because it's less busy, so they'd say, or whatever the case is. So I think that most definitely would be beneficial in the long run, is late.
Absolutely.
I find that like a lot of more like accidents also happen late at night, especially out on the street. That's when like a lot of injuries happen, stuff like that. So I mean, I would be totally here to advocate for evening stuff. I will come to the hospital. I would say, hey, listen,
I need a peer support now. Yeah.
Maddie pulled up something that we saw on the internet, and we're gonna read it and we're gonna talk about it. Want your opinion on it, but we also I think we need to dive into it a little bit, because what we found is not what we're seeing. So
I think it was March of 2023. Something came out saying discrimination in the province of medical services is prohibited in British Columbia under the BC Human Rights Code, which ensures protection for individuals who are actual and perceived members of certain protected groups. So that would include the vulnerable population. It's not true.
It's not true.
Yeah, that's something. And as well as not enforced. So there's talk, and it's always nice to say, hey, this is on paper, this is what we stand by, but it's not what's being followed through, and it's not what's being kind of laid out on the floor that I've seen. You know, that's the first time I've ever even heard of that.
Yeah.
One question for you. When did they bring this program forward? If this was posted in March at the beginning of this year, when did they first think this would be good to bring in? Do you know?
So I'm not sure on the specific timeline, but I do know that what kind of sparked it was the Toronto Hospital has a peer support program that is extremely successful. So it started there. That was the very first one in Canada. And then I think it was because, the posting for the position got posted in March. And I do believe it was probably around 4 to 5 months in the works. The manager of the ER out here putting the proposal in and kind of getting that going, doing the interviews and all that kind of stuff. So I would say about maybe just a year.
Okay. So that kind of lines up with, if they did put that out in March, that would line up as to like them bringing in the program. So that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I think I would challenge you to maybe take that to whoever your boss might be and be like, hey, look what I found.
Yeah, actually, I was like, oh, I might as well I'm gonna print it out and post it on all the walls.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I was kind of thinking of when we were planning this is like, so the very first episode we did on the opioid crisis. And one of the biggest issues that we find our this population has is that the reason that they turned to street drugs was because of an opioid addiction that was originally prescribed by a doctor, hospital, whatever. Do you think that it is, discrimination for them to then just cut them off as well? Like cut
I
them
would say,
off.
yeah, I would say discrimination, malpractice. I would say just lack of compassion, lack of understanding, lack of wanting to understand. A good example, yesterday I was dealing with a patient who came in and he had like 15 plus years of addiction to morphine and pills. And he had come in, he was in a lot of pain. And what did the doctor prescribe him? Morphine. And when he chatted with me, because I checked in and he was just looking like there was something wrong. And he was very honest with me, saying, like, I've been clean for however long. The doctor's now given me what my DOC is, and I can feel that monster coming back. And it just broke my heart because it takes 5 minutes for you to look back in someone's file, understand their history, and have some compassion for that, and then do a little bit of extra work and find something else. Hydromorphone is not the only painkiller out there. And so to just kind of slap it on there and just say, well, this is what I got for you, it's unacceptable. And it's really, it's cruel almost in my eyes, because now this guy is being honest, saying that it's sparking my addiction again. And it shouldn't have to take one of us to speak up and fight for that, but that's why we're here. So
I think that also kind of goes into, I think we talked about this on a past podcast about when you were going into labor and you wanted to change like the whole prescription if she got an epidural kind of thing. It goes into that. It's like presenting that to a doctor and them saying no, or why do you choose that? I'm choosing that because I want to choose that, or because of
you know what,
circumstances.
It's unfortunate because a white female who has a home and a job was listened to. That just shows discrimination right there. I was listened to, and 9 out of 10 other people were not. I was that 1 out of 10 that got listened to. I don't have addiction issues per se, but I do have a wild intolerance to opioids. It's a very rare medical condition. Actually, my body doesn't tolerate them at all. I have an extreme adverse reaction to them. And my body literally goes into complete shutdown mode and I feel like I'm going to die. It is absolutely wild. I've tried several different types, and I was pregnant with my first daughter and I wanted to do everything naturally, but in the sense of maybe needing an epidural, I knew that fentanyl was what they would run the line through, or run through the line, sorry. And I didn't want to have this reaction while I'm in labor and already in pain and then get thrown into more pain. So I was lucky enough to be able to sit down with an anesthesiologist before going into labor, 2 weeks before, my due date. And they were able to pull up a different concoction and have it on file for me. But
isn't that convenient?
Nice for me, hey?
And very nice for us white women, middle-aged, have a job, society accepts us. It's great that they'll work with us. Yeah.
It's quite lovely, but it's really, really shitty for the rest of the population who would never even be looked at for that as an option.
I think in another,
I just got to plug my computer in here. There we go. Okay.
Okay.
I think in some cases it's like just case by case, because also I know
Mhm.
people who have most definitely been neglected within that and been like, well, why?
Mhm.
Why do you choose that? Like,
Yeah.
this is already what we got made. Like, why would you want anything different?
And why does it matter? Is what I would like to know. Why is it questioned?
I think it's
Yeah.
a money grab.
And you know what?
I really do.
It's a money grab, but it's also it's a lot of judgment, because when I told the anesthesiologist that I needed something else, he immediately judged me and asked me if I was an addict. And I'm not. Sorry, Kim, say that again. You paused for a second. Oh,
It's cutting out.
Crazy.
1 sec.
hang on, Kim.
You're cutting out.
Shoot. Am I good now? Can you hear me? No.
We can hear you, but you're frozen still. So just give it it'll buffer, I'm sure. Maybe not.
Okay. Okay. There.
We're back. Okay, what did you say after I said that I
We're
was
back.
judged for being an addict?
Yeah, see, that's just crazy that that's the first go-to is, oh, you're asking for pain meds, then you must act, or you must have an. That's it's the way that the brain is wired from different viewpoints. Like I was kind of thinking about it last night, just kind of in preparation for this. My view and my the way my brain works is if someone's coming in and saying they have issues or they use substances, I right away go to, well, what led to that? Whereas I find a lot of the people in the medical system, if they say they have substance use, it's judgment rather than questioning.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, for myself anyway, I don't understand that mindset. I get that on a daily basis. It can be hard. But yeah, it's sad to see that compassion piece lost, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I had someone even yesterday tell me, like, I don't think anybody will ever understand anybody going through addiction, but I think it takes a certain person to understand in a sense, which made a lot of sense. Like, nobody truly does understand what it feels like to go through it, but it takes that certain person to understand, see, feel, and hear how they are within that moment or within what they are going through.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
doctors versus the peer supports, like, that's like one person doesn't have that compassion, but then the peer supports are there to have it. So it's like that healthy balance in a way, I guess. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Like I don't know anything medical. Like some patients ask me, like, what does this mean and this mean? And my blood pressure says this. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I can get you a warm blankie and maybe some pain med, but
yeah.
yeah.
So when you are dealing with patients, do you report back to like the nurses? Do you talk to the doctors?
So yes, supposed to be working with the doctors and nurses. It has been a little bit of a struggle because that it kind of dependent. The younger generation is a lot more open-minded, and it's taken some time to kind of. It hasn't been like, oh, hey, you're here, welcome. Hey, this patient, let's work together and let's be on the same team. It's been our team, the peer support, going in there, going over people's shoulders and saying, hey, this person looks like he could use a peer support. This person looks like he's not doing well. Tell me about them. Include me. Let me in. Let me work with you. Mm-hmm. So it's been a little bit frustrating, but that's all in advocacy work, I guess.
For sure.
I think it's also just them trying to even get used to having that program.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it's new.
It's
something
new.
To adjust to. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But also you know, doctors are usually the ones who are educators. Doesn't always have to be that way. We can still educate them.
Yeah.
Educate them on compassion.
Absolutely.
And like, just, that's what I find a lot of, people ask me about my job all the time. And if you're going to respectfully ask me a question, I will respectfully give you an answer, and I will educate you as best might with my knowledge that I have on, you know, what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Like, it just, it's a respect level, I find, and the homeless population is highly disrespected on a day-to-day basis.
I think before my education, before me working at the shelter, I didn't have the perspective and knowledge that I have now. I learned a lot within the short period of time that I was there. And I think moving forward, the whole outlook of addictions and mental health has completely changed. I feel like I am able to like work with them, not work against them. Like, just hearing and seeing and knowing different stories and watching what they do on a day-to-day basis has completely changed all areas.
I think the biggest thing that I learned working in shelter work was the phrase like meeting people where they're at. And I mean, that can mean a lot of different things. People who struggle with substance use. Oh no, what happened? Sorry guys, we had some technical difficulties here. We lost Kim for a second, but we got her back. Just circling back to the phrase like meeting people where they're at. Not everybody with a substance use problem is ready to go to treatment. That I feel like, you know, you work here, somebody comes in and the first thing is like, oh, let's get you in treatment. It's not the case for everybody. There are so many different realms of like addictions / mental health that you need to meet them where they're at and see exactly what they need in that time. It might be, they might need to use right at that very moment in time. And then we have overdose prevention sites for them to use. They might need food. They might need clothes. They might need whatever. And it's meeting them exactly where they're at and providing them with those small little necessities, and then building rapport and growing into whatever else they're going to need following that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just, I love that phrase of meeting them where they're at. I took a social work course through Vancouver Career College. That was one of the biggest things my instructor would focus on. And then just recently I took harm reduction. It's a course you can take as well, which I highly, highly recommend for anybody. I really thought that I was like, oh, this is just going to be a refresher. And, you know, I love harm reduction. I am a huge supporter, huge advocate for harm reduction in all senses of the word. But this course actually rocked my world and rocked some of my like thoughts. So they asked a really, really interesting question, which was, why is sobriety the ultimate goal? Why is sobriety what makes you better? Why is that what everyone goes to? Right. Maybe somebody's goal is to never be sober. Maybe somebody is going to use substances for the rest of their life. The goal should be, is this certain individual okay? Are they thriving in life? Are they happy? If they are happy, they're okay, and they're doing well, then it is not up to me to tell them, you shouldn't be using substances. You need to get into treatment. So when I approach patients, I always introduce myself. I tell a little bit about my background. I kind of dive into, you know, I've dealt with depression and anxiety since I was 14. I faced my own addictions, that kind of thing. I'm not like the doctors and nurses. I'm here to be on your team. And I'm here to walk beside you. So whatever that may mean for you, if you want to get into treatment and you want to look at detox, I can set that up for you. But if you don't want to do that, maybe you just want to learn how to use safely, or maybe you just want some education on safe harm reduction supplies. Maybe today you just want to get your foot looked at because it has an infection. And then during your stay, you want to go out and have safe monitored consumption. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to listen to whatever it is that that patient needs. And like you said, meet them where they're at. The ultimate goal for me, no longer, because it used to be like, okay, well, maybe not right now, but eventually it should be treatment. Mm-hmm. And now my whole thought is, even if they never, stop using a substance, as long as they can get to a point in their life where they are okay and they're happy and thriving, then that's it. I don't need to get in there and tell them you should do this and you'll live your life this way. And no, I meet you where you at.
Yeah. I feel like the more you push something, the more it gets neglected too.
Yeah.
Like, treatment, and then everything gets lined up, and then it's just like they don't try to phone the detox center to get into detox before treatment or whatever the case may be. It's like what they want will go.
Well, and I like hounding someone to do something. They're not going to do it. Doesn't matter. You can hound your kids to clean their room. They're probably not going to do
it. Nope, still haven't done it. So
exactly. So it's just that coming from a different viewpoint, direction, whatever. Something that I learned over the years. Like I've been in the human services field for 12 years. I've worked with all sorts of walks of life, and one of the things that I learned quite early on in my career, I would call it, is learning how to kind of switch up the way you say something. Like if you say something to somebody and it doesn't compute, on the spot, you need to learn how to say that completely. You need to say the same words, but say them differently.
Yes.
Right. And learning that skill it's not easy, but you figure it out over time. You just have to learn to reword things so they understand, break it down a little bit more, use different language, whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was even talking to someone yesterday about within addiction itself, being able to recognize where those addictions have stemmed from. So I can't even remember the example I gave, but traumas, let's go for. So your traumas and triggers. Okay, let's look at those traumas and triggers. When did you experience that? Why are they now coming up? And let's reflect in between. And they were like, I've never looked at it in that way, ever. And I'm like, well, it's stemming from somewhere. How is it making you feel? How are we going to work through it? And how are you going to move forward with that? What does that look like for you? It's just having those different perspectives of how to approach particular situations within mental health and addiction is also having the outside knowledge.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Because that's what I find is the difference between a lot of the nursing and doctors and us is that perspective. They kind of more take it like this person at straight face value. They're a user. They are in here and they have all these medical problems because they use. And then it stops there. No. And for me, it's no, behind these doors is so much more. There's trauma, there's, grief, there's just so many things that this person is dealing with. I no longer look at the substance as the problem. For me, the substance is never the problem.
No.
The problem is what led to the substance in most cases.
Yeah, there was this thing that I shared on Facebook, and it was what you see is addiction. So below addiction, which is below the water, it's childhood trauma, mental health challenges, physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, poverty, loneliness, grief and loss and pain. Those are the things people don't see and don't recognize. And it just gets thrown out the door, and it's nope, you have substance use, or nope, it's this. But it's the face, but what's behind that? What's within that person? Get to know them, understand where they're coming from.
I think that what our job, us people, the work that we do, the lives that we live, we're here to break the stigma and educate. and we're just one voice, but right now we're three voices that can share so much more.
Yeah.
You know, there's people that have these addiction issues, and you know, we'll post that picture, but like it's all the addiction, or the problems underneath the addiction. People don't just decide to do drugs one day. There's not one moment in history where someone was like, never used drugs in their life, and they're like, today's the day.
Yeah, exactly.
And
just randomly, I felt like doing fentanyl. Like, that's just not.
People think that that's how people start doing drugs. It's not the case. We need to educate people on all of the little things, and that's why Yard Talk focuses on addiction and mental health.
Yes.
And then underneath those things, like, I mean, when we were planning, how many pages did we?
Pages on pages
of different topics. I think we probably came up with 100 different topics we could do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like there's so many different things. So
it's such a huge pool of things, just a mixture of things. You know, I find that society is very stuck on just one thing. Like, you decided, you made that choice, you decided to do this, you wanted this, and it's like, no, there was so many other things that led to that person coming to where they are now, you know? And yeah, that's my focus, not the substance use. Like, yes, okay, if that's a problem for you, you want some help, I can help you with that, but
we're here for you. But
yeah,
let's get into the other things.
Going back to one thing really quick before we end this, I know you had previously mentioned that there is an OPS within the hospital. Is that in now, or is it in the works?
There's a what, sorry?
An OPS. Over to
okay, so it's kind of like an unofficial OPS because we've been getting tons and tons of pushback. Like, this has been probably the hardest part of this program. Not all the staff are on the same page, and so we, as a peer support team, decided on a certain area to take our patients so that it was a little bit more secluded and safe, not too far away from the ER, because if you got to walk back, right? And we all know what happens when you're using things like down and whatever. It's going to have to fireman carry some of the patients back. But yeah, this has been one of the most challenging areas for sure. So at the moment, like I said, it's really unofficial. We just kind of walk them to a little corner.
Yeah.
But I'm hearing word that we have like a big pop-up tent that's being ordered. And then I suggested bringing in one of those huge like tub bucket things for the sharps containers. And then like maybe just like a fold out chair or something, or like a little bench. And so it's in the works, and we are continuously kicking that door down to try to get it going.
Yes,
but it is, yes. So if anybody during their stay coming to the ER and you need to have monitored consumption, 100% that is available to you, regardless of what the nursing staff does.
Amazing. I will definitely be carrying that forward too.
I've been telling people, and I'm like, I really hope this is actually it.
Yes.
Like,
right. Yes.
People there, you can do this, and they're like,
yeah.
what? And I'm like, I hope so.
Yeah.
Because I've been telling people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. Well, thank you for coming on the show, Kim. We really appreciate it. We're definitely going to follow up with you about this, and we will, continue to relay that information to our clients. But thank you for everything that you're doing. I think this peer support program is amazing. Thank the rest of the team that you have as well on behalf of us.
If you need any information, like if you're doing any surveys, please send them my way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, there is the one in the works that I'm kind of working on.
Okay.
But of course the system has very, very strict rulings, so it might take a little bit, but it's coming. So I'm really excited. And thank you guys so much for having me on here. I think what you guys are doing is so cool. And the fact that we can partner together and raise more awareness, like, this is awesome. We're part of a really big movement, guys. I'm really, really excited.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Kim.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye.